Hi, everyone. A very warm welcome to this session of Let Us Talk It webinars. We are extremely excited to start this new year with a new, the webinars are same, but with a new approach of having the maximum time, utilization of the time of all the speakers, all the attendees who are joining in our webinars. So I'll talk about that a little bit later, but for now, just trying to welcome you all those who have joined in on social media, on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, a very warm welcome. And we have for 1 hour, we have 3 webinars zipped in. So it's all technical. And if you have joined in, please let your colleagues, family members, or anyone who you know would be helped, please let them join, send them the link. And it as we are trying to help the community to make a more informed and enhanced community, you can also join hands and do your bit as well. So with that, we begin our Let Us Talk It webinar. First, so we have 3 webinars or 3 topics that will be discussed in one day and 1 hour. So our first topic would be the cloud native versus traditional applications of the future for banking and financial services sector. And our next topic would be overview of AI and machine learning. Learn the basics behind artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, and neural network. And our third one would be digital transformation, configuring your organization to take full advantage of digital innovation. So those are the 3 topics of today. We give each speaker 20 minutes of time initially. And so after this listening, you can give your feedback in our Let Us Talk It website. And the speaker whose topic you feel needs more elaboration, you get connected, please do send us in that feedback, or you can email us at webinar@letustalkit.com and let us know about your thoughts, your feedback, and we assure you we'll bring back that speaker, that topic for you for full 1 hour in our next session. And this is our pilot webinar for today. So calling it Zipinar, giving it a new term, new thought, new dream for 2021. Hope it will work out. And having said that, we go for our first speaker. With us, we have Vinay Rajagopal, who brings in 17 plus years of experience in enabling partner ecosystem to adopt new age technologies, practices, and solutions to embrace digital transformation initiatives, modernize and optimize platform delivery, and a lot of technical terms, which I'm not going into, and I'll leave it to him to explain. But what I love about his profile, and I'm sure you love it too, is that he holds 3 granted patents and 2 published files, Blackboard certified product management professional, management from London School of Economics and Political Science, design thinking from Emeritus MIT, Executive Education Strategy and Leadership from Jack Welch Management Institute, and engineering from BTU, and is currently pursuing his master's in AI. That was a lot to even talk. I'm just wondering how he managed acquiring all those knowledge. And he is also a member of the Artificial Intelligence Workgroup SCORE team at World Economic Forum Center for the 4th Industrial Revolution, a volunteer for community-driven development initiatives through Rotary Club, and a weekend author. That's about it. Thank you so much, Vinay, for joining, being our first speaker for our webinar, and over to you.
Thanks, Julian. I think that was a very kind, very warm welcome, as well as a brief introduction. I'm glad you pulled off all the educational, academic, portions that I had briefed out, which is very good. Thanks again. Let me get started. I'll share my screen and just let me know if it's all fine. There you go. You guys see the screen okay?
Yes, perfect.
Excellent. Thanks a lot. So, I'm going to talk about how applications, are progressing. There's quite a lot of influx right now in terms of handling the legacy applications versus what we call as born on the cloud, right? The cloud native applications. We'll also look at the industry overview and then a couple of open source initiatives that we're working on, which is something that you guys can, kind of tap into. You could download those codes, play with it, and see how you could embrace that into some of your organizational or your passion towards building code, building applications, and so on and so forth. So on that note, let me get started. Quick introduction. I think Julan has already done a good job, but just to kindly quickly brief, I'm responsible for the partner ecosystem with Red Hat. From a solutions and architecture, from a technology perspective. I'm also a member of the AI work group from the World Economic Forum, which is a part of the Smart Cities mission. I'm also a member of the IT Future Tech panel. And she's already briefed. But one thing that I want to stress upon for everyone who's watching this webinar or Zupinar, I should say, is there's no end for learning. And you heard Julan mention that I'm currently pursuing my master's in AI. There's definitely no end for learning. And some of my patents, you could go to my LinkedIn profile. It's linkedin.com/in/Vinay Rajagopal. Click on those links and you'll be able to read through the patents completely. That would be of some interest, hopefully, for you guys. And having said that, let me quickly set the context up, right, in terms of where is the industry heading. And it's absolutely important for you guys to, kind of envision that and see where were we a few years ago, where have we, been all this long way, and where are we heading towards, right? And that's the key emphasis in terms of how technology has evolved, right? And if you look at it from a banking perspective, we've seen typical banks, the brick and mortar kind of a setup, right? For every little thing, you have to get into the branch, get your stuff done, complete those transactions, and then walk out, right? It's as simple as even drawing cash out of your own bank account. Now, we've seen that has evolved into ATMs. It's evolved into what we called online banking. Of course, those days it was all web, and eventually it's come to different form factors of what we call handhelds, right? The smartphones. And what happened in the last decade, if you've seen, there's been a very strong ecosystem that's built across the banking services, right? The API, the ability to expose data in the form of an application programmable interface gave way to a lot of, fintechs, like we call it, all those startups from a financial perspective. And not just that, if you see in the last few years, the API economy has truly opened up very large initiatives. Like, for example, the Europeans, they came up with this whole open banking initiative where there was very defined standards and the roles that each party would play within the consortium to kind of expose the data and make sure the banking services are available for anything as simple as retail or a smart pay, using your watch to make a payment and things like that. That kind of truly led in terms of embracing what we call a circular ecosystem, all the partners, the business to business consumers, and then finally exposing it to the end customer, right? So bank being process oriented, which is what it has always been, even now for that matter, became more flexible, more customer centric, and the fact that there were several other services which was able to tap into what bank had to offer, and that led, like I said, to a lot of fintech ecosystem. And remember, as in when the data got exposed, again, the European countries came up with this regulatory emphasis in terms of protecting the data, right? It could be personal data, it could be sensitive data, and that's how it led to GDPR. And of course, the general data protection regulation that the European Union brought in was also embraced from various parts of the world. California was the state to follow that, right, with CCPA, California Consumer Privacy Act, and of course. India has just tabled the India Data Protection Bill as well. So that led to what we call RegTech, the regulatory, technical startups that also fueled this ecosystem. Now, where is all this heading? This whole payments, whole services. Now, if you see where all of this is heading, from an industry perspective, is tomorrow you would see vehicles like your cars, which are connected, where they're instrumented, they're connected, and therefore they're intelligent. So the next time you walk into a fuel station, you don't have to pull your wallet or use your credit card to make a payment. Your car will be instrumented to an extent where it would then pay for your gas station, wherever you're fueling, right? So that's where we're heading. We call that V2X, vehicle to anything. Every connected vehicle has a lot of data that could help the community, the county, the municipal corporation in terms of understanding the traffic patterns, in terms of even probably looking at a natural disaster. It could be a landslide or a storm or any of those by the patterns of these connected cars. And how are banks making a difference? When it comes to the payment, like we call that as wallet on wheels, right? So your cars are going to become virtual wallets for you to make payments. Now, that's on the upper side of the horizon, right? If you look at what is happening on, from a bottom line perspective, is everything is getting hyper personalized. And what that means to us is identity and access management will continue to be at the center of the every initiative that a bank or anybody in the financial sector has to deal with, right? And what is happening is there's a definition of a global consumer-driven identity and access management. And tomorrow you would see you would see your smartphones becoming so intelligent that you don't have to key a password. All you have to do is use your biometrics, your facial detection, and so on and so forth, and would still be able to, transact with the bank seamlessly. With protocols like FIDO, where organizations like Samsung is already working on the betas to implement that on their smartphone. So you would see identity, you would see wallet on the wheels, everything embracing what we call the future of a bank, right? And if you see, if I have to take my own personal example, during COVID, I had to apply for a home loan, a mortgage, and everything happened virtually, right from my application to the approvals, the sanction, and so on and so forth. Everything happened, virtually. So that's where everything's heading. It's evolved from being a product position to customer centric to now what we call the things, the connected things. Now you call it neobanks, you call it virtual banks, you call it digital bank. End of the day, bank as a service is potentially possible. So that's a quick overview in terms of where is the industry heading, and for any industry or any digital transformation initiative, it's absolutely important for us to understand how are the systems of engagement, the applications which are the heart of all these transactions are evolving, right? And if you see from being what was very siloed and in a monolithic architecture, which is a client server based architecture, and very product centric, right? And this is how you have to do, this is how your workflow is, this is what the process that's tied to this application. Those were the traditional aspects of the application, the way it's developed, the way it's packaged, the way it's deployed, right? Everything underneath the application, which is your infrastructure. Where is that heading? And we see a lot of new age workloads, right, which are very dynamic in nature. It's driven through a partner ecosystem, the ability to tap into niche players. Like, for example, you have an application, you want to push a notification, you would probably go to Twilio or any of those SMS services that you don't have to really worry about how do I set up an SMSC gateway? How do I send this notification onto a smartphone? But you would have services which have built their niche into that. They've abstracted everything and given you just a couple of calls, couple of codes in your application. You can then, send a very customer centric, highly personalized notification to your customers. So that's where we're heading. And this infrastructure, can be on cloud, can be, which is like a public kind of a setup, or can be on-prem, which is a private setup. But where are they, kind of truly coming together as a hybrid scenario, right? But there are workloads that you want to ensure is protected and stays within your data centers and so on and so forth. And there are new age workloads that you're happy to, kind of embrace the public cloud from a cost and economic perspective, right? The total cost of ownership as such. And what we're saying is truly hybrid, truly dynamic, and very ecosystem driven. That's where everything is heading, right? One that was architected for transaction. Now there's speed, agility, and resilience that is required to ensure customer experience is at the center of everything that you would do. Now, having said that, we've seen cloud-driven technologies and processes definitely improve efficiency, agility, and you go to market. And at the same time, if there are, if there are too many customers, how do I scale? Can I scale vertically? Can I scale horizontally? All that potential is possible. We see 71% of CIOs say that is their topmost priority for their enterprises, right? And you also know that there are legacy applications that you'll have to do with, right? And before we get there, we also see that there's about 70% of organizations which are running, 3 or more containerized applications in production by 2023. That's a huge thing. So there are people, as a part of their digital transformation initiative, are already adopting the containerized workload. But there's always this challenge of two worlds, right? There is innovation that is happening from a cloud native applications, cloud native technology perspective, which definitely gives you speed, gives you your CI/CD and DevOps pipeline, continuous integration, continuous deployment, very optimized, gives you, the left shift in terms of the code coverage. But you also understand that there are a lot of traditional applications which still exist within your data center, right? Which is very tightly coupled to the architecture. Sometimes it uses some of the acceleration that is driven out of the hardware, which is, again, very tightly coupled, right? Quite slow, takes a lot of time in terms of building new features, making changes, and so on and so forth. And it gets very difficult to build that visibility. And without visibility, you will not be able to maintain the desired state. What that means is you don't have much of a control on that whole system of record and engagement, right? And that means you are not really qualifying the automation. And automation definitely leads to unlocking the investment, the resources, and the time that's required for you and your organization to truly, go towards something that's not repeatable, right? It's something that would then bring in an innovation culture within the organization. Those are very, very key. And what that means for an organization is that application modernization and adoption of cloud native technologies are an imperative. Definitely, COVID has been one prime factor that has kind of, accelerated this whole digital transformation journey. Now, having said that, what are the vantage points for you and your organization? Now, you need to be uniquely placed to orchestrate and tap into your partners, right? And I mentioned about fintechs, regtechs, and there we've seen a lot of insurance companies tapping into retail organization. If I'm a retail organization, or I'm an appliances organization, or I'm selling a TV or something, I could now add an insurance to the TV, or I could, if there's a repair process, I could sell my what we call the annual maintenance and things like that attached to that, right? And retail banks have also have enough data to kind of help customers realize various ways of investments, various ways of, either tapping into an IPO market or equity shares and so on and so forth. So there's potential possibility for you to orchestrate, and there's a need of building a circular partner ecosystem. And you all will be best positioned to do that only when you have the ability in your IT is flexible enough to take that forward. Now, not just that, you have to maintain that relationship, right? And that's only possible when you kind of integrate the core capabilities of your offering as a bank plus the partner solutions, right? And that's where you're driving new experiences for your customers. And today, I can log into my banking application and book a flight ticket, even book a movie ticket. I could go to the theater close by and experience some of those. Of course, COVID has kind of mellowed down those experiences. Now, not just that, if you see what are those new age workloads, right? I didn't mention about a few at the beginning from an industry perspective, but I do see a lot of conversational bots. What the bots that I don't have to really call the customer care and get my queries answered. I could just chat with the bot and get my answers all at the click, and a few text messages exchanged with the smartphone. So there's a need to be frictionless. There's a need to onboard customers seamlessly, be it your KYC, be it your wallets on the things, be it the customer-centric identity and access management that I spoke about. And we've seen tremendous growth from peer-to-peer lending, right? Smart payments and so on and so forth, which is truly leading and giving banks a vantage point. And those are extremely important. We're bringing in orchestration, we're personalizing it, we're giving new experiences, and all of that driven out of cognitive AI, machine learning. I'm sure Karan would emphasize much more of that in the subsequent webinar. So how do I translate this into, from a digital transformation perspective? We see about 96% of companies have already, in one or the other way, in some of the other form, have started their digital transformation journey. There is a definite intent and an initiative that's already been embarked. We're seeing about 49% of CIOs report that their enterprises have already changed their business models, or at least they're in the process of changing. And once you understand the new business models, once you understand engaging customers and delivering tangible outcomes in the form of customer value, you would then realize that it's digital technology and the whole total cost of ownership and the investment would actually turn out to be 10 times cheaper, because you're truly helping your customers derive the true experience. And that kind of stands out as a vantage point for the organization. Now, having said that, how is this whole thing coming together, right? How are organizations really becoming digital leaders, and how banks especially, right? So where do we start? So if we have to break that up into different ways, we call that the underlying infrastructure, which is where everything is hosted. And like I emphasized at the beginning, it's all hybrid, right? And applications which have been monolithic, which had client server kind of architecture, now breaking into microservices, so that each service is an independent unit by itself, and there's not much of dependencies between services, so that they can all operate asynchronously and give you that scale, performance, speed, everything that you require. And from a processes perspective, we're not looking at where we're building a feature for 6 months and then we take to the market and realize it's not helping our customers. It has to be very agile. It has to have a CI/CD strategy, the continuous integration, continuous deployment strategy, to truly build a cloud native DevOps cycle. And those are some of the very important key imperatives, which are definitely a top priorities for the banks and the organizations to kind of embark on the digital transformation initiative and truly evolve as a digital leader. Now, I want to quickly, and I understand the audiences would be interested in realizing, how do I make this happen? All good about webinars to know where the industry is heading, what everyone should be doing, but how do I really go about doing it? That's a very key important emphasis, right? So what I've done is I've kind of put together a very nice architecture that kind of gives you a recommended path. It also gives you a phase-wise approach. What you do is you start with your web servers, your virtual machines, and so on and so forth, and then you look at rationalizing them from an application perspective and see what is that you could modernize, and how do you start adopting containers as the next phase, where then you truly become a cloud native organization, which could be hybrid, on-prem, or public cloud for that matter. And there are definitely a lot of tools, a lot of open source emphasis that gives you not just ability to orchestrate a container image, bring the self-healing capabilities and so on and so forth, but it also gives you ability to monitor the health of your application. It also gives you ability to meter that if you're putting together an emphasis like a pay as you use or anything as a service kind of a setup. Now the best part is if you kind of follow Red Hat, everything we do at Red Hat is open source. And what we've done is we've taken the Kubernetes platform and we've added a lot of adjacencies to it, and we made that into a world-class enterprise Kubernetes platform, which is the number one right now in the market. What that means to you guys is if you build it on OpenShift, you could then deploy it on IBM Cloud, you could deploy it on AWS, deploy it on Azure, OpenStack, or on your own systems, or even Google Cloud for that matter, even Alibaba Cloud. So that's the beauty of it. So if you're starting something, you're a startup, or you have plans to build an application, please get started on OpenShift, and that truly gives you this interoperability, from a cloud perspective, true multi-cloud architecture that you could approach. So that's the quick architecture, and what that means is, DEFL, getting away of the overhead in terms of managing different development platforms, different tool chains for the DevOps. No need to build siloed product units, regional vendor tools, dependency, cost, the overall cost for production. Not just from a development perspective, also the costs that are involved from a deployment perspective. Fast change request, easy to build new features, easy to know to draw the visibility factor so that you could then apply control and automation. And that's the best part of kind of reducing the complexity on choosing that foundation that you want to build upon, and of course cost savings. Right, that's the key for any organization. Now, if I have to translate that quickly in the form of new age workloads, we talk about Internet of Things, IoT, and quickly on AIM, machine learning aspects. And of course, like I said, Karan would then kind of give you more overview from an AI/ML perspective. So we do realize that there's everything's connected right now in the world, right? So that everything is smart, instrumented, interconnected. They have data to share, something that we all can tap into and kind of bring those insights to improve the efficiency of operations or new business models that we can build. Now, from an end-to-end perspective, it is very important. It's not just those devices which are interconnected, like I said. It's not just about managing those devices and ensuring there's a connectivity, but in terms of policies, in terms of limiting what is that you could and what is that you could not, right? From enforcing policies and access and so on and so forth. It's also important for you to kind of run that analytics at the edge, which is a need to be very low latency, right? If you look at 5G, the ultra low latency emphasis of 5G, that's possible. For example, if you let's say you're driving a driverless car, and if you apply brakes, you see an object right in front of you, and you apply brakes. Imagine taking that data to the cloud, computing that data, processing that data, and then giving an instruction to apply the brakes. By the time you apply the brakes, you probably would have hit the object in front of you. So there's a need for you to build that compute layer, build that analytics, build that machine learning, even at the edge, right? And then take all that which is not required at a real-time basis to the cloud. So it's always important for you to not just look at device management and connectivity, but also your ability to process at the edge and apply those insights. Now, for anybody for that matter, from an IoT perspective, right? You could bank using your watch, your smartwatch, or whatever it is. There's a need for you to also to integrate with various other applications, like your MES, your CRM, and so on and so forth. Therefore, there's also need of business and application integration, and not to forget the data privacy, the data security, or all the compliance that are regulatory requirements. You're bound to ensure compliance, from the law of lands perspective, right? So if I can break that up from an architecture perspective, You have various devices that are instrumented. You have an edge that you kind of brings your gateway to bring that data and then push that into an integration hub. And then you do all the data slicing and data management, your extract, transform, and load operations, and make sure you capture that data into your application, irrespective whether it's cloud native or traditional. And that modular end-to-end approach from machine learning perspective would be how do I build the machine learning model? How do I train it? How do I infer out of it? How do I bring that data? Now, before you do any of those things, there's need for you to kind of translate that data, which is, from different protocols, right? Every devices would have its own protocol. There's several protocols that you would use, but you need that translation of the data. You need your ETL operations. You need to build your model and constantly train that model, and then take that insight out to out to your application again. So if I could map that up from an end-to-end IoT perspective, these are the functional blocks. And of course, we could do this in some other webinar. But from an overview perspective, and from a Red Hat perspective, we have AMQ. Again, AMQ through your Kafka streams, or you could typically use a broker kind of setup, which is like a service bus where you could publish or subscribe, and then we have a Fuse, Red Hat Fuse component, which helps you in terms of integration to any other enterprise application. We also have 3Scale API management, which is gives you ability to expose data through APIs. You can also limit the API. You can authorize API keys. You can kind of limit the number of API calls and so on and so forth. You could throttle all of that. And one more important piece that I'd like to emphasize is your Red Hat Decision Manager. Now, there's a need for you to decouple the business logic from the codes. For example, if you have something like a logic that is coded, right, you'll have to go to your code and change every time. But if I kind of decouple that and put it into a rules engine, I could typically change just the rules and then set up multiple rules so that the code can then fall back onto a rules engine and then make that appropriate decision. What that means is it's flexible. It's easy for your business analyst to make any changes from from a decision making perspective. For example, if I'm a premium customer for the bank and I would there's special interest rate for me for my mortgage, then the moment I seek for an application or I submit my loan application, it automatically looks through the rules engine and just detects that I'm a wealth management premium customer, and then automatically gives me a pre-approved rate of interest. So all of this again is built on you could use OpenShift to build all of this. All of these are open source components. You could Google all of this, go to Red Hat, go to GitHub, Red Hat handles, download them and play with them, use them in building your own applications and so on and so forth. So to kind of summarize this, could be a virtual machine.
Interrupt, Vinay. I hate to do it, but we just want, if you could wrap up.
Yeah,
quick.
Yeah. Sounds good. Yeah, thanks for that quick info. I was waiting for that, Juliet.
I want to keep that not open, closed, and people coming back and asking, where is Vinay? So that's how you have to leave it.
Sounds good. So we're all good. We've got others lined up. It's great. I will quickly touch upon the Open Data Hub initiative. You could access that through opendatahub.io. That's a toolkit that we've kind of put together all of the open source stuff that you can quickly adopt into your AI ML initiatives. I'm sure Karan's going to deep dive more into AI ML overview. So that's it for us for now. Go there and truly help yourself to architect for disruption. And some calls for action quickly before I wrap that up. I've got links out here that you could go use all our interactive tutorials that you could try and play, get your hands on it, and start building those applications of the future. And I'm, like I said, I'm also responsible for the partner ecosystem. So if any of you guys are interested in knowing the partner program of Red Hat, drop me a note and I'll be happy to talk to you. Thanks, Dulan. Over to you.
Yeah, amazing presentation, Vinay. It was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rainey. Have a good day, guys.
Thank you.
Thank And we'll definitely have you for a full 1 hour webinar. And we would like to hear from you, audience, attendees. If you have question, please put it in the chat. We can get it, we can send it over to Vinay. Any particular question that you have, but we have to go to our next speaker. And our next topic for today is overview of artificial intelligence and machine learning. Learn the basics behind artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, and neural network. And to talk on this, we have a very young speaker who is the lead engineer at Penny and founder of Tribotics. He also has been a Google I/O speaker, Google crowdsource speaker, in 2019, all of this, Global Azure Bootcamp speaker, a judge, mentor, and speaker at Utkal Hacks first ever hackathon at the Silver City of Orissa. So he has whatever he has the technical part of it. But one thing that I noticed after talking to him is he is super energetic and super excited always to learn new things. And for you, our next speaker, Karan Shah. Karan, if you would,
yes,
you on?
Yeah, Julan, thanks for this warm welcome. Okay, so yeah, let's start with the thing. Let me share my screen. Yeah. Okay, so Julan has already given my introduction, but I'll give a small introduction about myself. I'm a lead engineer at Penny.co. It's a Dubai-based company, and apart from that, I've also worked with as a head of engineering in RefTap.ai. I was also the ex-CTO of Prographer, and I'm also the founder of Tribotics Innovations Private Limited. So from last 5 years, I have totally worked on AI ML products. These products were, some products was a fintech company, somewhere regtech company, somewhere edutech companies, so somewhere logistics related companies. So this companies have worked and have explored that how they are integrating the AI and ML in order to solve the real world problems. So what I will do in this session, I'll give you the overview of AI and ML and deep neural networks, and how practically different companies are using on their products and how they are getting benefit about it. So so let's start with this session. So these are my teams. These are the few events which I've done previously. I was also the speaker of Google I/O, Google Crowdsource. I'm also a public speaker. So I love to share my knowledge with young people and the people who are willing to learn new things. So yeah, so let's start. So previously, so before starting, I would like to give you a small intro on basically on artificial intelligence and machine learning. So artificial intelligence is an area of computer science that emphasizes on intelligence machine and how they behave and react like human beings. So some people have misconception that what exactly the AI means. So AI is something you're making by utilizing computer science, you're making intelligent systems. So then what is machine learning? So machine learning is an application of AI that provide the program an ability to learn it by itself. Hello? Yeah. So AI itself is a very big domain. It has many branches and sub branches of it. If you see here, so AI has branches like machine learning, expert system, speech recognition, vision recognition, planning, robotics. Lot many areas are there. Under machine learning, we can see deep learning, supervised learning, unsupervised learning. So if you see natural language processing, under natural language processing, we have text generation, question answering, and machine translation. Lot many things are there. Like we use a voice recognition system that also comes under natural language processing. We have expert system, we have robotics, we have computer visions. So lot many, these are the sub branches of artificial intelligence. Okay, so you can see that these are the few areas where we are using machine learning in order to solve the problems, like in a Google self-driving car, in natural language processing has been used with the Google voice, and when you're doing audio to when you're transcribing that audios, at that time we are using natural language processing. In robotics we are using reinforcement learning. So that's all about this. So so if you see here, so artificial intelligence is have many subsets. So you can see the machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence, and deep learning is a subset of machine learning. So this is the more deeper classification of deep learning, is you can see here. So let's understand how this technological evolutions happened. So if you see, when we were standing in 1915, at that time the term AI ML, this artificial AI has been termed, and at that time we learned how to program, how we can make a auto playing chess game, and how the bot can play a chess game. And later on, we entered in 1980s. We entered the era of machine learning, where we learned how we can do spam filtering, where we learned how we can do basic classifications. We learned how we can do fraud detections. Those kinds of things we learned. When we entered in 2010, we entered in an era of deep learning. We started using deep neural network, and after that, it made us very easy to classify any image. We started exploring more on computer vision. We learned how we can classify the image, how we can stitch the image, a lot many things. In the further slide, I will show you that how deep learning is solving very, very critical problems in regtech, biotech, or fintech companies. Okay. So yeah, so the applications of machine learning, I think you already knows that virtual personal assistant, that is Google Assistant, Alexa. If you see social media services like face detection in social, if you upload any photo in Facebook, you can see that photos got auto tag. It tags your friends by default. So that is the feature of face detection, friend suggestion, news feeds, advertisement. And in the email, you can see in your Gmail, you can see that there is a spam filtering does. So all your promotional mails goes to your promotional section. All your spam mails goes to your spam sections. So there also we are using machine learning. So even online customer supports after this COVID, many companies for their customer support, they are using chatbots or humanoid related chatbots who can talk like humans. And even search engine search engine results also, they are also very good. They are using machine learning in order to give the better search results, and a lot many things. Okay, so if we go deep inside machine learning, we have three main different kinds of categories. One is supervised learning, one is unsupervised learning, and one is reinforcement learning. So by the image, you can understand that supervised learning is where you have a data and where your algorithms, in order to feed data to your algorithms, you have to classify it, or where you have to teach your algorithm that, okay, this is the X data, and putting this X data, you will get this Y data, like that. And from that X and Y data, the system tries to learn and try to build the model. But in unsupervised learning, by the word itself suggests that it's unsupervised. You just put your data and your system will classify by itself. It will group it by itself. It will try to find the hidden pattern inside it. That we are doing inside a deep neural network. And reinforcement learning is something where it's taking the advantage of supervised, unsupervised learning techniques, and also it's taking a live feedback from the environment, and on the basis of that, it takes decision. Mainly it is used in self-driving car, in robotics, because the training which you have provided, that taking the advantage from that. But even the images for which the car is capturing, and even the sensors data. On the basis of that, the car is taking decision whether I have to move forward or I have to stop, and how much speed I have to how much I have to do the speed up. I have to speed up the car. So those all decisions is taken on the basis of their live feedback, what it gets from the environment. So that comes under reinforcement learning techniques. So yeah, so if you see here, so under supervised learning techniques, we have two classifications, like classification techniques and regression techniques. Under regression, we have simple regression, multiple regression, linear and non-linear regressions. And under supervised learning, we have clustering techniques and association techniques. And under semi-supervised learning, let me talk about the semi-supervised learning. Semi-supervised learning is a learning, it's a combination of supervised and unsupervised learning techniques, where your some of the data are classified and they have proper labeled, and some data are not having proper labeled data. So in that kind of situation, you're going to use unsupervised learning, semi-supervised learning techniques. And reinforcement learning, I've already told about that. It takes the feedbacks from the live environment also. So the feedback can be negative feedback and positive feedback also. Okay, so if you see this tree, so you can understand here under supervised learning techniques, there are many different algorithms to solve particular problem. If you see, if you're having something, if you have a data where the data which are, if you're having some data which are already labeled, so you can go with supervised learning techniques, because you have your data are supervised, your data are labeled, it already knows the answers. So in that situation, we'll go with supervised learning techniques. Under supervised learning techniques, we have many different algorithms like regression, decision tree, random forest, classifications. Under classification technique, we have different algorithms like k nearest neighbor, logistic regression, Navier Bayes, support vector machine. Under supervised learning techniques, as I told, under unsupervised learning techniques is where you have only the data, you don't have the label, and you want your system to detect the label by itself, or you want the system to group it by itself. So under that thing, we go with unsupervised learning techniques. So unsupervised learning techniques, under unsupervised learning techniques, there is clustering, there is association, and if we go with reinforcement learning, so if you see this, they are supervised and unsupervised, they are further classified like continuous problem or categorical problems. So categorical problem where you can categorize it, okay, and continuous problem where you can't categorize it. So let me go further and give you some more deep examples. So yeah, so you can see here. So under supervised learning, we have classification and regression. So what areas we are solving using classification? You can solve fraud detection, you can do image classification, you can do email customer retention, you can do diagnosis. So under regression, you can do prediction, new insights. Under reinforcement learning, you can do robotic navigation, skill acquisitions, learning tasks, AI games. They all come under reinforcement learning techniques. And if you see the unsupervised learning, so under that we have, as I told, the clustering and association. So using clustering, we can do customer segmentation, target marketing, recommended system. And under reduction, you can do structuring, structured discovery, feature detections, meaningful compression, big data visualizations. So these are the few things. By seeing this picture, you can understand that which areas and which domains the AI MLs are solving. Okay, so let's understand more properly that what is supervised and unsupervised. Maybe in the further previously you didn't get more better understanding. By seeing this image, you can understand that you can understand here that suppose I have labeled data, which I told in supervised learning we have labeled data. So like we have the images of the birds, and we have already labeled it like dark, non-dark. So when you train your model and you give a new bird image, so it can predict whether it is dark or non-dark. This kind of algorithms we call this kind of techniques we call supervised learning techniques, because here you have a labeled data. But what if you don't have a labeled data? So if you don't have a labeled data, then we go with unsupervised learning techniques. So here you don't need any supervision. Your algorithms by itself, it will create some pattern on the basis of structure, colors, and lot many other things, and it will try to group it. It will try to using clustering technique, it will try to group it on the basis of the various features. So here the system by itself take decisions. And reinforcement learning, I have already given you the example. Suppose if you take a robot and you want to solve this problem. So but when you're so the robots, what it does, it takes a live feedback from the environment, and by the basis of that, it takes decision. So let's go more deep inside machine learning. As I told, it's the deep learning is a subset of machine learning. So what improvement we got after 2010? What improvement we got in deep learning? So you can see here that in machine learning, so there were 4 steps involved, like input, then you have feature extraction, then classification, then you get the output. But in deep learning, what problem we solve using deep neural network, the feature extraction and classification happen inside one method, inside a one step. So this was one greatest achievement, because we did not need to always put some in this, actually the deep learning, if you have a huge amount of data, so this neural network performs very good. So in the further slides, I'll show you that how it does. So this is the few practical examples. Suppose you have labeled your image that where is chair and where is furnitures, where are swimming pools. So after training on the neural network, you'll get a classified data, like by classifying that okay, in this image we have swimming pool, in this image we have chairs, furnitures, like that. So yeah, so let's understand what is deep learning. So deep learning is I have given a very simple example here. So we have an input, we have 2 hidden layers, and we have an output. So in the magics actually actually happens inside your hidden layer. So if you see more properly, you can see here. So we have an input layer, and then we have 2 hidden layers. So then in the hidden layer, you can see in each layers the deep neural networks performs the feature extraction. You can see in the one layer it is extracting all the eyes, nose, and all the different features, and then it does the face extraction, and then it predicts the output. So what we do when you upload your photos, so your Facebook by default it tags your friends. So this is what the Facebook does internally. It takes the photos, it extracts the features, and by extracting the features, it tries to understand that with which image it is matching, with which of your friends in your friend list it is matching, and by that it tags the friends by default. So I don't want to go more deep inside this, because we have a very less time. So this one more thing I will talk about this. There is forward propagation and backward propagation in deep neural network. So if machine is, when we are training in the deep neural network, if the desired result doesn't come, then it goes for backward propagation. It corrects the weightage, and again it does the same thing. Okay, so yeah, so this is one image. By seeing this GIF image, you can understand how the whole things happens. So you have a training data, then you decide your ML algorithms on the basis of what kind of data you're having. Do you want to do supervised learning or unsupervised learning, or do you want to perform and what kind of algorithms you're going to use? You're going to use KNN networks, or you're going to use support vector machine on the basis of your data. So you're going to produce your models, and then you have a new data, then you feed your new data into your ML algorithms, and then it's going to predict some output. And if you're not getting desired output, you can use reinforcement learning in order to retrain your models. Okay, so now the application. So some of the practical examples I'm going to give you in this. So in ProGrapher, when I was working with ProGraphers, so there I worked with how we can increase the image quality, how we can increase the, if suppose you're having a low resolution image, how we can increase the image quality. You can see here the frog image that is little bit blur when you zoom it. Then after using a deep neural network, we are able to produce this fine output. So one more practical example I'm going to give you here. So you can see before and after, you can see here. So after doing a 4x zoom, so the image got blurred. So when we pass this image with when we train our AI and ML algorithms by using deep neural network and TensorFlow, we are able to produce this kind of output. You can see that the image is so clear here. One more example, I will give you this example. So you can see the before image. So, and after image, in the after image, you can see the sky is little, it's more bluer. You can see the swimming pool is more bluer. So what it does, as I told, we train our deep neural network that if you find any skies, then you make it little bit bluer. If you find any trees or something like that, so you make it more greener. If you find swimming pool, you make it more bluer. So like that, you can see that by using AI and ML, we have produced a tremendous output here. With the food also, we previously we were also working with Swiggy for food photography. So this is what we when we get the photos from our photographers, so before the image and after we pass it this image to our AI and ML algorithms, we get this kind of output. You can see the colors, and all the colors are coming so clear. They are so prominent, looking so prominent and tempting. Okay, so this is also one example I can show you here. So you can see before we have two images and we wanted to stitch it together. So when we were using simple machine learning algorithms, you can see the image has been stitched, but it has not blended properly. But by using deep neural network, you can see the third example. You can see how well the image has blended. So this is the main advantage of deep learning, where you get more prominent outputs. Okay, so yeah, so that's all. These are few references I think you can take. Let me know if you have any questions. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Karan. And yeah, but now next time, the only problem with this super innovative and AI and MI and everything that you actually forget how things look in its original form. So that's the only issue here. So better, yeah. But it was a terrific presentation. Thank you so much. Thank you for keeping it. Best the time that was given to you. And yes, anyone, if you have any questions, please put it in the chat. We'll try to take it, if we can, if we have some time, or we'll definitely, as I said for Vinay as well, that we'll have him, as the feedback we get, we'll have him definitely for an 1 hour session as well. So thank you, Karan. Thank you so much. And now we have our third speaker. He is Ashish Gupta, and he will be talking about digital transformation, reconfiguring your organization to take full advantage of digital innovation. So yeah, can we have Ashish, if you can have your video on, and your if you can share your screen as well.
Sure. Just give me a second.
Yeah, sure. And while Ashish is doing that, I'll just give a brief introduction. He is a digital expert with over 18 years of experience working with mostly ITSP like Accenture, HCL, and Wipro, to name a few. And currently he's working with McKinsey. His expertise is to automate everything that is automatable, leveraging his expertise on AI, DevOps, RPA, blockchain, etc. So we look forward to what you have in store for us, and absolutely honored to have you. Over to you, Ashish.
Hey, thank you so very much. Thank you so much for calling me for this and then giving me an opportunity to talk. So guys, I wanted to keep it very simple for you, because I feel that, the takeaways from my session should be the ones, which you can really use. And then whenever you come across something, you should be able to correlate to what you have seen here. So a short introduction about myself. I think you have already covered it. So today we're going to talk about what is the digital transformation, and what exactly it means for us. And whenever you come across anything in digital, then possibly you might want to kind of look through this and then at least try to correlate it what we're going to talk about today. So typically, in the world where we live in right now, there are broadly two kind of companies. The companies which are born digital, right? And I think I don't have to name organizations like, your AAA, your Amazon, Alphabet, Apple, to name a few. And of course, the companies and the organizations which were not born digital, right? And then they will have their own traditional business model to work on. So this discussion is typically for the organizations which were not born digital. And when we talk about digital, what exactly a digital means? So when we talk about digital, if you can remember it in a very easy way, as you can also see into these slides, that the business model is what differentiates a digital and a non-digital organization. And in order to support that business model, the internal capabilities, which are ensuring that a digital model is delivering the value, is what can make a business digital. And of course, the last but not the least, the customer experience. For today's discussion, we're going to only focus on the first two, which is the business model and internal capabilities. And I wanted to give you a vivid picture of what it looks like. So from the perspective of business model, Gartner has very beautifully defined that the digital business development path looks in the following way. As we all know, right, before the advent of web, the business was pretty analog in nature. There were only people who were there into the cycle. People were almost based on the relationship mode. And then the technologies that were typically used was, ERP and CRM. And then right after, there was this, before the nexus of forces. Now, nexus of forces refers to the era where, you have your social, your mobile, your cloud, and your information, right? Karan talked about AI. So during the period when we were web, when there was internet, and then before the adoption of mobile, social, and cloud, whatever I spoke about, there were three more models that were evolved. One was, of course, web, and then the e-business and the digital marketing. So typically, there were a couple of more entities that got engaged in. One, of course, business was there, and then the people started interacting with the business. And you can imagine that, possibly any organizations, their focus was basically to move on to the new market by virtue of moving on to their new business into new geographies. They were extending their relationships, and then they were doing it by adopting a couple of technologies. And now, right after the era of change that we are in right now is the fluid change. And this is exactly what a digital business is. Imagine that, your car needs service. So what we typically do nowadays, right? We call up our car service providers, and then somebody at the rear end will look into, okay, now your car needs to get serviced, and then he will book an appointment and then possibly tell you that when you needed to come and drop your car for it to get serviced. This is basically the analog web or the e-business part of the word. But when we are into a digital business or the kind of model that we can into be, then possibly your car itself take up a decision that it has to get serviced by virtue of using IoT inside the car, and then possibly the notification goes back to the car provider, and then the database gets looked into, and by virtue of the fully refined AI ML model, a car appointment is being booked, and then you get a message on your mobile that you needed to drop the car at a specific date for it to get serviced. So this is where the interaction is not happening only between business, but in fact there is another thing called as IoT which comes into the picture, and the things are becoming more autonomous, right? So that is where the business model becomes a digital model, right? Where the interaction is between people, business, and things. And this is exactly the future looks like. And I'm sure example of Tesla is not unknown, and a lot of you would know about it. Is what is the new business model that we're adapting towards. Gartner states that there are almost 75% of the organizations which have fully adopted digital business model, and there are almost a large number of amongst the remaining 25% which are either into the e-business state. That means they're still catching up on the global channels, trying to become more effective, and some of them are still lying into the web, which means they still are having just a website to proceed further, and hence they're working on enhancing their business model. So this, I would say, help us to identify where is the business that you are currently into right now, is at this point of time looking into the picture that you see right now, and then possibly decide that what can be the next state for me, so that then I can become more digital or more autonomous. And this is exactly the future of a business looks like. I'll keep moving. If there are any questions, please feel free to stop me or to just write a message in the chat. Now, as we said, right, that nothing is possible to become a digital business unless you have the capabilities to support it. Now, this is pretty interesting. If you were talking about the internal capabilities, let me just try and see if I can hide this. Yeah. If you talk about the internal capabilities, the biggest hurdle is you can always bring in a good technology, right? You can have AI ML model, you can have a lot of tools and applications to make sure that your business become digital, but until unless your internal capabilities are not aligned, then the whole benefit that you can reap while becoming a digital business would not be there. But then the bigger problem, the bigger challenges which most of the organizations which are not born digital are facing is to bring that change. And here is some of the studies that I did in terms of how we can make it happen. So typically the organizations which are not really born digital, they cannot become a digital organization until and unless they kind of create within their own organization a new company within the core company. So this is the rule number one. You do not have to kind of start with your entire organization going digital, but basically a subset within your organization. Maybe you can call it as a new company within your core company, which exactly would then take up the flag to become more digital. The second rule of this to create your internal capabilities, which can become more aligned to making your organization more digital, is follow these three steps: forgetting, borrowing, and learning. And I'll explain it in a second that what exactly it means. That when you already have a new company within your own company, you needed to ensure that you have a different governance and a different set of people who are taking care of the decisions for the new company. For example, in most of the older organizations, there is a specific way to take a decision. There is a specific way to think through. We always create a process, and then that process gets followed throughout decades. But then in the new organization, we needed to ensure that we learn fast. We are more data driven. We take fast decision, and we ensure that whatever forecasted decision that we are taking, and then we understand the result that it has given us. So this is the kind of learning angle that you needed to bring in. As I said, we need to forget about some of those very old rules that are there into the company, because once you are into digital place, then you have to think and look through your organization as more of a data-driven organization than just working on the rules. The last and not the least is where you need to borrow, that there are still some values which you need to borrow from your old organization to make sure that you are able to bring in some commonalities and still able to learn from the experience from the older organization to kind of make it more digital. So once we are able to align the learn, forget, and borrow framework, then the capabilities for the new organizations become much more solid and much more aligned towards the vision of you or your business becoming digital. And I've seen that mostly the organizations which were not born digital and adapting these kind of practices they find their organization become digital much faster than otherwise. So I guess this, I mean, I don't have too much of agenda to talk about it today. I just wanted to leave you with a couple of thoughts. That one is that how do you align your business model, and second is how can you really look through building your internal capabilities to make it more digital. I'll take a quick pause to see if there are any questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ashish, for that quick and informative session. Yes, you did cover it right on time. But I mean, we still have with us Vinay, Karan, and Ashish, as you see. So I would, if anyone of you have any particular question and you guys have that extra time, we can ask that question if it is okay.
Yeah, great sessions. Thank you so much, everybody. It was nice to get a lot of good information overload in 1 hour.
Thanks, Srini.
Yeah, you can feel free to unmute yourself if anybody has any questions. Otherwise, probably we can conclude.
Okay, so if we do not have any question, we would again just let everyone know that we will be having these webinars. It was previously 3 days a week. Now we are putting it together, zipping it up, zipping the webinars, but definitely whoever wants, as soon as one webinar is chosen, we have the feedback, so we'll have the speaker back for 1 hour session. And with that, we just, if you have any question, any feedback, please do share it with our email us at webinar@letustalkit.com. And we do our Let Us Talk It Youth webinars as well, which we do every alternate Fridays for a younger group from 6 years to 11 years, and for the older group from 12 to older group. And those webinars are the older youth webinars. We have it every Saturday from 4 to 5 p.m. EST. And for those youth webinars, we have the prep session, which happens every Tuesday and Thursday. And the timings, how it works. If you are interested, again, I would suggest you can email us at webinar@letustalkit.com and you will get all the information. Thank you so much for joining in, inspiring us, and we are hoping that we can inspire the community in our small way possible. Thank you, each one of you. Thank you, all the speakers, for joining in. Thank you, attendees, and thank you all those who have joined in on social media as well. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day and have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice.
Take care.
Yes,
Thank you.
bye.